All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our Lunch and Learn. We do these monthly on the first Wednesday of the month. So again, as you're dropping in, arriving, you're welcome to drop your information in the chat. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves and share just a quick minute or so of what your business is, why you're here today. And then we'll share just a little bit about NAWBO as well, and then we'll hand it off to Dr. Sherie, our presenter, who's going to be talking all about hormone health and balancing our hormones. So we'll just do this popcorn style. I'll start and then I'll send it to somebody else so we can all get to know each other a little bit better. Hello, my name's Olivia. I am part of the NAWBO Sacramento board. I am the program's co-chair along with Morgan, who's also here. And I wear a lot of hats, but my biggest passion is my business Goddess Night Out, which is a local women's organization that focuses on connection, expression, creativity. So we host monthly dances for women every full moon. We have one coming up on December 13th. It's an Italian themed dance. And we also do sister circles, new moon workshops. We have a charity concert coming up this Sunday that benefits Wellspring Women's Center. So that's my biggest passion. I also have a videography and photography company. I manage a studio in East Sacramento as well for workshops and event rentals. And I'm also an astrologer and I offer astrology readings. So I always say, if I don't do it, I know someone who does it, and that is the beauty of NAWBO because we all get to connect with each other and share resources. So I will send it over to Morgan, my co-chair, to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. As Olivia said, I am Morgan Gonzalez. I am the other co-chair for programs with NAWBO, and I also own Beauty Skin and Makeup Studio, so a licensed esthetician and makeup artist located in the Arden Park, Sierra Oaks area of Sacramento. And we specialize in customized facials and makeup for any occasion. And I am very excited to also hear from Dr. Sherie just for myself, and then also maybe to share information to my mom and other women as well. So thanks for being here. And I'm just going to pass it on to Whitney Wiley.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Whitney Wiley. As I said, down in Elk Grove. I am an organizational leadership and employee development strategist. Basically, I consult and coach in the areas of helping with leadership training development, helping organizations and employees get engaged and to create better workplaces. And I will pass to Ashley.
Oh, thank you for that, Whitney. My name is Ashley. I run Guardian Protection Force, a physical security provider specializing in executive protection and armed security services. And then most recently, I started my own venture, Guardian Secure Solutions, where we leverage technology to support physical security operations. So I work with a wide variety of clientele, from small businesses all the way to, Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 clients that we serve. So, pardon my appearance today. I'm moving boxes. I blurred my background because it's craziness happening in my office today. So I was really dressed down. I was really excited that this was virtual because otherwise I would have felt extra guilty. But I am definitely in a hoodie and have like crazy boxes back there today. That's not typical, but and I will pass to, sorry, I almost forgot that part. I'll pass to you, Kim.
I knew you were going to pass it to me. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim McLaughlin. I am a licensed psychotherapist in the state of California. I work with people who are feeling upset, frustrated, overloaded in their lives and help them feel better. I do a lot of work with people around eating disorders and emotional eating. So that's a lot of what I focus on. So Dr. Sherie, I'm super interested to hear what you have to talk about today. A lot of people I work with really frustrated with their hormones and their health. I am also NAWBO's co-chair for membership. So if you're interested in joining NAWBO, NAWBO is, we're the ones who are sponsoring this today. So like, I'm hoping anybody who's not a member you can get in contact with me to talk about membership. So that being said, Samantha, I see you there today. I'm so happy to see you, and I'm going to pass it to you.
Hello, beauties. A lot of friendly faces, a lot of folks that haven't seen in a while. Good to see you. I'm Samantha Contreras. I am the CEO and founder of My Growth Marketer. I do all things marketing, including branding, social media, websites, and marketing strategy. I am a proud member of NAWBO Sacramento, for going on year number 2 now. And I am here because as a business owner, I always am looking for ways to optimize my energy because there are so many things to do, so many responsibilities. So I'm really excited to hear from Dr. Sherie today. And I don't know if there's anyone left. Okay, Katrina, I pass it on to you.
Okay. Hey everyone, Katrina Sawa. I am calling in from Rockland. I usually live in Roseville, but where I'm in a rental house today. And so I'm a business coach. I've been helping entrepreneurs start, grow, and market and scale their businesses since 2002. I love finding those holes and opportunities where they can be more productive, more effective, and a lot more profitable, and have more fun while they're doing it. Because some people dread certain parts of their business. So we look at all the things and how it all flows together and have you work smarter, not harder. So, and then a few years ago, I started doing so many books. These are 2 of my books that I started a publishing company. So now I have also Jumpstart Publishing. If you know anyone who's trying to get a book done or wants to know more about launches and publishing, love to help them with that. So books and business. And I have an event coming up at the end of January too. So I'll throw that in the chat, but would love to see you there. And let's see, Kelly hasn't gone. Kelly's turn.
Hi, my name is Kelly Kukas, and I own All Bodies Physical Therapy. So I do pelvic floor physical therapy. So I treat like bowel and bladder dysfunction. I treat pain, with sexual activity, pelvic pain. I see a lot of people, sort of through their lifetime with all of the, hormonal changes that happen, and so yeah, I'm really interested in today's presentation.
Mhm.
I think that's everybody. I don't think I have anyone to popcorn to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kelly. And like I said, if anybody else pops in during the call, maybe we'll give them a chance at the end to introduce themselves. But some of you are already doing this. Feel free to put your LinkedIn, your website, your connection resources in the chat. And of course, as we start the presentation here very shortly, you can share your questions in the chat as well. I see that Dr. Anita just popped back on. Would you like to introduce yourself and your business really quickly?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Anita Johnson. I'm a financial behaviorist, and it's Anita Johnson and Associates. And what I do is help women understand their emotional relationship to money. So that's the name of my business. That was my research, and I help you understand your emotions, your fears, your anxiety, so that you can make great financial decisions. So I help you understand why you do what you do with your money.
That's great.
Thank you so much. I will have Dr. Sherie introduce herself in just a moment, but I know many of you have been to NAWBO events before or are already members, but I just want to share a little bit about NAWBO Sacramento. So we are the Sacramento chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners. And our national organization is 12 million women strong. But here in Sacramento, we have a beautiful, flourishing chapter as well, where we really all support each other and connect to each other's businesses. So I already was seeing in the chat, oh, I'm looking for someone to update my website, asking for Samantha's resource. And that is just the beautiful thing about women supporting women, right? So our chapter's mission is to provide our members with educational resources like we're doing today, as well as social, economic, and political programs that really help women-owned businesses grow successful ventures and make effective changes in our business culture as well. So we actually have 2 people on our board who are our advocacy co-chairs and are very much involved in what's going on at the state level and working with the legislature to give business owners a voice, which is really powerful. And our goal is to provide you with access to mentors, advisors, advocates, and each other, so we can all just help each other grow. We're here to empower, educate, support, and advocate on behalf of women business owners in the Sacramento Valley. And this is one of 2 events we're hosting this month. It's a lighter month for us because of the holiday season, but tomorrow night, actually, we will be gathering in person in Rancho Cordova at Frequency Co-working and Events for our annual Give Back event and holiday party to support women's empowerment. So it's all donation based. You can make a monetary donation or bring a physical donation at the door, and I'll add more information about that in the chat. We'll have a huge charcuterie table and an open bar with alcoholic and non-alcoholic options, as well as some of our NAWBO members there selling their physical items, so you can support local women-owned businesses in your holiday shopping as well. So that's a little bit about NAWBO, but now is the perfect time to introduce our speaker, Dr. Sherie. And I would actually love for you to introduce yourself, because even just chatting with you in the past couple minutes, I've learned so much about what you offer and about your personal experience. So I'll just let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be here. My beautiful slides, I can thank Samantha Contreras for. NAWBO connection. Thank you very much, Sam. So I'm Dr. Sherie Viencek. I've been a chiropractor for 30 years. I worked in San Francisco, and then I owned a practice in the Oakland Hills for 20 some years. Then I moved to New York and had another practice for 10, went back there for family, and then I arrived back in this area about 6 years ago. So about 15 years ago, well, when I was doing chiropractic, I was seeing a lot of women in their 30s and 40s, and a lot of them were just really burnt out and having energy problems and hormonal problems. And I too was having that. I was, freshly out of school, starting a business, didn't have any family or connection here, really wish a NAWBO existed back then. Maybe it did, I didn't know about it. But so I started to have a lot of hormonal problems. So of course, I think we're attracted to the things that we need and we're most interested in. And it's really been a lifelong learning now. I mean, I can say sincerely for 30 years, I've had a pulse on hormones for women. So today I mostly have a functional nutrition practice. I have a small chiropractic practice, love working on women and children, mostly, honestly. And I do a lot of gut health, brain health, hormonal health, metabolic flexibility. And I have kind of a newer passion because I became a Recode practitioner, which is Dr. Dale Bredesen's work. He's reversed Alzheimer's. He has a book out on reversing Alzheimer's. He has a movie out on Netflix. It's fantastic. It's chronicalizes 5 people who've completely reversed their Alzheimer's disease. He's reversed about 500. So I did his program, and what I really grabbed from that was that how women, mostly women, 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients are women, start to go through these changes in their 40s. So now what I'm doing with my work is really, focusing in on this and really helping women realize that brain health and brain fog isn't about old age. It's about these changes in life and these transitions. And a lot of this starts around perimenopause. So I'm kind of passionate about hormones in gut and brain, and that's what I do. Yeah. With also trying to keep a pulse on baselines and testing. I think people have to really understand where they're at, and I try to highlight that and encourage that for everybody.
Well, thank you so much for introducing yourself. And I know you have a presentation for us if you want to go ahead and share
Sure.
and get into it.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. Does everybody see this? Okay.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay. Let's exit. Let's see. Oh, let's go back. You seeing it now?
No, are you sharing it through Zoom?
Yes.
We tested this
We
beforehand.
did.
Mercury is retrograde, I will say. Okay, great. We see your screen now.
Okay. Let's go here. Okay. Are we here?
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay. So this is the first screen. So this is kind of the topics we'll talk about in the next 30 minutes about optimizing energy and keeping our hormones balanced. And so we have to touch on hormones and digestion and looking at mitochondria and sleep. And there's a lot here. So we just talked about me. So I'll move off here. So I just want to say, you know, food is our foundation, right? And protein is the hero and fat needs a rebrand. So I want everybody to really think about this idea that protein breaks down into amino acids, and amino acids are what makes our hormones and our neurotransmitters. So it's really hard to have balanced hormones or balanced neurotransmitters and feel good, anxiety, mood, depression, etc., if we don't have enough hormones. And so we have to be eating enough protein, and about 20% of the population are on PPIs, these proton pump inhibitors for GERD. And what it does is it stops protein breakdown. And so eventually what happens is women start to lose muscle, they start to lose bone. So this is an important piece. And the average 150-pound person needs about 150 grams of protein. And when I have a really great protein slide, which I'm sorry I didn't put in here, but like a hamburger is about 40 grams, a salmon, 4 ounces is about 28. I mean, there's a lot more protein to fill up in there, especially if you're going plant-based. So just be really careful that you're getting enough protein. And then fat, you know, we definitely need good fats in our diet. It stops our glucose spiking. When we eat fats, it helps stabilize blood sugar. And there's this wonderful YouTube video to share. It's called The Root Cause of Insulin Resistance is Not Sugar and Carbs. It was these, the Navy did this experiments with SEALs in the Monterey Bay and working with their diet. And they found that when they had this fat, C15, they were completely resistant to insulin resistance. But as soon as they had any kind of carbohydrates or a different type of fat, they started to go into insulin resistance. So that's a really fun video to watch, kind of eye-opening on that. So for our food to be able to support our energy, we need to really break it down. We need to metabolize it and we need to absorb it. So in the stomach, we need to think about that the stomach starts our digestion of acids. And so what is acid breakdown is protein. And so we need adequate amount of HCl and pancreatic enzymes and plant enzymes. And each decade of life, we tend to reduce our HCl output. So about by the age of 60, we have about 35% less hydrochloric acid output. And very often when you talk to older people, they'll say, oh, I just don't digest meat well, or I just don't eat it anymore. And this is a little wake-up call, because this is really about not secreting enough digestion. And once the food's digested in the stomach, or once the acids and enzymes have worked on it, then food has to get metabolized in the liver. And the liver has what's called phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification. And this is where we take a lot of nutrients and antioxidants, and everything coming in that's fat soluble, like a chemical, a hormone, a heavy metal, has to be broken down. So we have so much non-alcoholic fatty liver increase in women, and this has a lot to do with how many hormones we have in our life, especially with birth control, because it's a synthetic hormone, and that our liver isn't breaking these down well. So we have to think about really supporting our liver, especially during the holidays, right? So bitter food, cruciferous family, that's broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all the greens, kale, collard, Swiss chard, things that are a little bitter like dandelion, lemon. And then for the intestines, we need good motility. We need fiber and starches and prebiotics and probiotics. And the gut has this thing called the MCC, the migrating motor complex. And so when we eat, shortly after that, very often there's this feeling that you have a bowel movement, right? And that's because it's kind of this peristaltic wave that happens. And often we start to lose that with SIBO, and unfortunately these, like the whole Ozempic family, there's some gastroparesis, people start to lose this motility. This is one of the downsides of that medication. So we really need to be supporting our gut. Our gut is huge. I mean, we could probably do 2 hours on the gut, but just thinking about that, we really should be supporting our digestive process to get the energy that we need from our food. Okay, and then another energy kind of warehouse here is the adrenal glands. So these are these tiny little glands about the size of an almond, sit on top of the kidneys. They're in the back of the body, right? So they're not protected by the abdomen and the warmth of the abdominal fat that's there. And so they get cold very easily. They have 2 layers to them. The outside is the cortex. It makes DHEA and cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. DHEA is an extremely important anabolic hormone. It's important for resilience. It's important for psychological well-being, bone, immune system. Many, many women have low DHEA around perimenopause. I always check this hormone. The medulla makes epinephrine and norepinephrine. That's that get up and go, that sympathetic drive. And we need to have strong adrenals as we approach menopause, perimenopause, like our 40s, because when that ovarian loop stops between the brain and the ovaries, and we're no longer producing the same amount of hormones, the adrenals pick up the slack. So our hormones are made in peripheral tissue and made in our adrenal glands. And there's a lot of research lately that's come out about young adults with low DHEA reporting feeling really burned out. And I remember when I was really young in my house or just in high school, like if you had coffee, it was like some crummy coffee that your parents drank, like Maxwell House or something from back in the day, right? And then the super coffees came out and the coffee shops and the Starbucks and the Pete's and the drinks. And so we have a highly caffeinated young generation of people. And we have to think about that this caffeine is really hard on the adrenals. It's like whipping the adrenals to just dump out these stress hormones. So it's up to us to understand that, and it's up to us to nurture it, because we can't get burned out. And, at midlife, too much is at stake. Everyone on this call, has their mostly their own business or part of a business. And so we work really hard to get where we get, and you don't want to burn out. And I burned out once, and it was not fun, and it took quite a while to recover. So this sympathetic path, the sympathetic go-go creates a lot of cortisol, and we can pretty much balance out the acute cortisol, but we can't when it becomes chronic, because when it becomes chronic, it really affects our blood sugar. And then it suppresses our insulin, and then we become insulin resistant, and then it's hard to lose weight. And abdominal fat has 4 times more cortisol receptors on it. So if there's a ton of cortisol out there, those abdominal receptors are feeling it. And when cortisol stays high, it shuts down the thyroid's ability to convert from T4 to T3. It shuts down the anterior pituitary gland. It makes the gut more leaky. It affects insulin resistance. So the idea is we have to really think about really managing our stress and not burning out. And then there's this concept that the body steals cortisol at the expense of other hormones. There's this concept called pregnenolone steal, and it's when you're under a lot of stress for a long period of time, the body basically says, I'm not going to go into childbearing mode because I can't support that. And I don't have anything extra. So I just need to make cortisol for right now. And it shunts down these other pathways. So that's another reason why sometimes our hormones get low. It's because of having chronic stress. And I just want everyone to know you can test this. This is an easy test. It's a salivary cortisol and DHEA test. It comes to your house, you spit in a tube 4 times during the day, and you see this circadian rhythm, and you should be in the green here, and the middle green, and it should have a nice slope. Our cortisol starts high in the morning, basically to get us up, and then it slopes down, 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 and then around midnight, our cortisol should be at its lowest, and then melatonin starts its circadian rhythm up. So we have this diurnal thing where cortisol starts high, gives us energy through the day, then should go down so we sleep, and then melatonin comes up. And sleep problems are endemic, right? There's problems falling asleep, problems staying asleep, problems with insomnia. And this is part of this cortisol pathway that gets really knocked out. These circadian rhythms get knocked out. So If you want to test your cortisol, I just want you to know there's an easy way. You don't have to go to a doctor. I mean, I can send you a kit to your home and you can test this. So think about nourishing your adrenals on a day-to-day basis. I mean, eat regular meals with protein and fat, taking adrenal adaptogens or glandulars. What I did was create a PDF, which is going to be in the handout on my website, and it will list certain specific supplements in the brand of how to get the things I mentioned. And that's if you want. So if you want an adrenal adaptogen, you can just go there and take a look. And then avoiding more than 3 cups of coffee or caffeinated beverages. They have found there's a sweet spot with coffee, especially that 2 to 3 cups is wonderful, right? Helps with cognition, helps with circulation, vasodilation. But after that, there's a real negative. So there's a negative on the adrenals and a negative with clearing it. It's got to clear through the liver and through the gut, and it can be hard on both of those things. And cold drinks. I had mentioned that the kidneys are on the back of the body, so they're really not protected. And it's like when you have like a shirt that's short or a coat that's short and you get that cold shiver up your back, that cold shiver in your back can actually contract your kidneys and your adrenal glands. So think about, keeping your low back warm during the winter. Alcohol and sugar are particularly hard on the adrenal glands and the sympathetic nervous system. And adrenals love warmth. They love to stay warm. So keep your low back warm. If you have like a rice bag or one of those corn bags you can put in the microwave, you could put it on your low back when you go to bed. It's a really nice way to open up circulation to your kidneys and give you a little bit more chi there. And rest and relax. I mean, the more, we can do R&R, the better, because the adrenals aren't meant to go, go, go. And we do push them and they go, go, go until they don't. So I want to take a shout out to progesterone. So it would be very difficult to go over all the hormones in this kind of period of time, but many women become estrogen dominant because they're not clearing their estrogen. They may have been on birth control pills or hormone replacement, or their liver is just not adequately doing phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox well. And the estrogens keep recirculating. Also, all these plastics and parabens, they mimic estrogen receptor sites. So we have a million reasons why we get to be high in estrogen, and that creates an imbalance with our progesterone. So we tend to have more estrogen to progesterone, and progesterone is really important for insulin sensitivity. And sometimes when women need progesterone, if they use a little bit of progesterone, this is kind of a little clinical pearl, a little bit before meals, rubbing it on topically, it helps stabilize blood sugar. And then we had talked about protein and low glycemic vegetables, MCT oil from coconut. These are all really beneficial ways to stabilize adrenal glands and help with our progesterone levels. So, sleep hygiene has become a very, very big topic. And it used to be in the 80s, there was a real push, 80s and 90s, to you could do without sleep. Like you could just go, go, go. And, you were stronger and better if you could just, suck it up and just push through it. But that's not really the MO at all today. And I just love how much focus is in sleep, because we repair in sleep, right? We burn fat when we sleep. It sets the circadian rhythm for cortisol and melatonin. But really importantly, our lymphatic system, there's a lymphatic system in the brain called the lymphatics, which was found about 15 years ago with these new high-powered microscopes. And this is how our brain gets rid of toxins. So the lymph system doesn't pump on its own, but the arterial system pumps. So the arterial system helps the lymph system to cleanse. And when we are not sleeping well, we do not cleanse our brain. And that's why we, one of the reasons why I feel like garbage when we wake up when we haven't slept is because we also haven't detoxified. And there was this big study done in the UK on this 35,000 people. And they watched them, they had them nap several times a week and compared them to non-nappers. And the brain size actually increased by 15 cubic centimeters. And the people that did not nap had smaller brains and they had higher cortisol. So it's, I don't know if anybody's ever seen these rooms that they have in Japan for businesses where they're sleep rooms that everybody can just go take a nap. And then they have places in the park where you can go nap for 15 minutes if you need to catch up. Okay, and I want to talk about autoimmunity. So we have a lot of autoimmunity. We have Hashimoto's and lupus and Sjogren's, and women have a much higher incidence of thyroid autoimmunity than men. 20 million women are diagnosed with hypothyroidism. 20 million people are diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And out of that percentage, 70% of those are thought to be Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune. So if you are hypothyroid, and you haven't had your antibodies tested, you should get your antibodies tested, because once you have an autoimmune thyroid, it's a completely different ballgame. It's not just taking thyroid replacement, because autoimmunity has to be managed. And this is the real problem with Western medicine. So you go to your doctor, they determine, say you've got Hashimoto's or you've got lupus, and they say, okay, well, we're just going to wait and watch this. Come back in 6 months, come back in a year, we'll redo these levels. Well, you have to understand that autoimmunity has to be managed, and we have these triggers. And I'll give you a really easy example from kind of a functional medicine standpoint. So it turns out that the gluten particle, the gliadin protein, is really similar to thyroid hormone. And so gluten in wheat tends to be a trigger for Hashimoto's. So let's say somebody has a big holiday meal with, a lot of different bread products in it, desserts, whatever. And then that night they start to have some tachycardia and some sweating and some panic, and they really don't know what's going on. They don't attribute it to the food at all. So what often happens is when you have autoimmunity and you take in a trigger, we'll use gluten. That gluten trigger will sit on a thyroid receptor site, and it will dump out thyroid hormone. And when it dumps out thyroid hormone, T3 is a very metabolically active thyroid, and it can increase your circulation. It can increase your heartbeat. It can make you have anxiety. So sometimes people go to the hospital thinking they're having a heart attack when they're really just having an autoimmune attack, but they don't know that. So this is kind of an important piece around the holidays, because if you do have an autoimmune condition, just to think about understanding your triggers and being careful, because once you take in these triggers, it can take days or weeks to kind of rebound and feel better. And then I think before we started this, Olivia and Morgan and I talked about hair loss. We're seeing so much hair loss in young women. And this really has to do with a lot of thyroid disruption, a lot of thyroid and gut disruption, and chemicals, of course. So hormones. So we have lots of hormones. We have our sex steroid hormones. We have 3 types of estrogen. We have progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, pregnenolone. We should test them all. We need to know our baseline, need to know where we're at. And then we have adrenal and thyroid hormones. And it's very cool because they communicate with each other. And so one can change into the other. It's called aromatization. So for instance, testosterone can aromatase into estrogen. And you see this in young men who are really high in testosterone. They'll develop boobs, it's gynecomastia. They're developing female tissue. You'll see this with testosterone downstreaming into something called DHT, which is a toxic hormone that can create hair loss. Progesterone, a wonderful hormone, will push thyroid into its receptor site. So it's this dance that they're all doing, and knowing what they're all doing is really important. Like if you have a Kaiser plan, they'll test TSH. Well, what about the other 8 thyroid hormones, right? It just leaves us knowing nothing. And TSH comes from the pituitary gland. So it's only a feedback loop hormone anyways. So I just want to say, I didn't put this slide in, but if you can think about cholesterol, this box, and then all these arrows going down. So cholesterol's in the box, and all these arrows going down are all your sex steroid hormones. So cholesterol is the mother molecule that makes estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. And if you're on a statin, you have to monitor your cholesterol, and you have to monitor your hormones, because I've seen people on statins that no one's retesting their cholesterol for a year or 2 later, and their cholesterol starts to really drop. And if your cholesterol's dropping, your hormones are dropping, and these people get really moody and depressed. And the levels of cortisol, the level of cholesterol. So high cholesterol used to be 240, and then it became 220, and now it's 200. When the statins came out, high cholesterol became 200. And then if you're down 170, if doctors will say that's great, right? But if you start to drop below 170, like I've seen 130, 150, you are not making sex steroid hormones. You're not making them as robustly as you can. And what I've seen this too with men is that it stops their testosterone and they start getting erectile dysfunction from the statin because they're not getting their hormones. So think about that you have to check your cholesterol regularly and you have to check your hormones. Okay. So women have many conditions that are hormonally mediated like our whole life, right? We start with puberty, then there can be irregular cycles. 30% of young females are identifying with irregular cycles now. There's something called subclinical ovarian failure. This went up by like a whopping 40% after COVID, even though every woman that went to a doctor that said her period was not coming since COVID was kind of poo-pooed, at least the ones that came to me. And their doctors just said, wait, it'll come back, right? But you cannot ovulate and still get a period. And that's a really important piece to know because ovulation signals the second half of the cycle to make progesterone. So you want to be ovulating, and there's lots of apps out there and all kinds of ways to monitor your ovulation now. But you definitely want to be ovulating. And PCOS, endometriosis, there's a link now to endometriosis with gut bacteria, which is really interesting with leaky gut. And then moving on to childbearing, perimenopause. So our whole life is really hormonally mediated. And hopefully, luckily, for some women, they're totally unscathed. They just move through all these processes, wonderful. And then you have women that are still in their 70s having hot flashes and waking up, and young women having PCOS and irregular periods. So really important to get our hormones figured out and balanced. And I just want to say that I think progesterone is a girl's best friend. I really, this hormone's amazing. It's anti-inflammatory for the brain. It's good for the nervous system, reduces anxiety and inflammation. You will sleep like a baby if your progesterone is low and you finally get progesterone. Protects the heart and lungs. It protects breast health because it opposes estrogen. So if estrogen's too high, it can help mitigate that high estrogen. And there were some studies done with men and women with low progesterone with COVID that were admitted to the hospital, and they gave them progesterone intramuscularly in the hospital, and their lungs cleared up and they were allowed to leave the hospital earlier than the control groups there. So progesterone is very anti-inflammatory. So there's many ways to, so I think we should get our hormones checked like we turn up our cars, like, at least once a year. And then when you get this baseline and you know where you're at, then maybe every 2-3 years, but people should get baselines. I think women should get baselines in their 30s and 40s, because then you have something to reflect back on. And there's lots of ways. There's saliva, urine, blood. They test different things in different ways. And we just have to, this is where the individualization of a good intake and history comes in. Like estrogens break down into metabolites, and in these metabolites, there's good actors and bad actors, and the bad actors can contribute to uterine fibroids and cysts. And then the good actors help prevent that. So yeah, blood tests were always considered the gold standard, but the problem with blood is that you're only looking at a hormone that's attached to a protein that's floating through the blood, and that protein has to be cleaved off that hormone to be taken up by the receptor site. And the difference between a total hormone and a free hormone can be very, very big. You can have total testosterone in a great range, but your free testosterone's in a very low range. So different tests for different people for different reasons, different age groups. Saliva tests are really inexpensive. They can come to your house. They're about $125, $150. Urine tests, there's different types of urine tests. I like to do a 24-hour hormonal urine because you get to see the big picture over 24 hours. But I just want people to know that there's various ways to test these, and you don't have to go through your doctor. You can get a kit sent to you in the mail. Yeah. And so, with the holidays and with their beverages coming up, we really need to think about detoxifying and thinking about our hormonal system a little bit. We need to think about our livers, because we have this thing called the estrobolome. And this is where estrogen is moving through the liver and should then go on to the gut, but it can recirculate. And it can recirculate and we can become estrogen dominant. And we want to support the liver all the time with the same foods we talked about previously: green foods, lemon, radishes, daikon, the long white radish, milk thistle. Any kind of bitter is really good for the liver, taking some bitters with your meals. And then everything's got to go to the gut and it's got to get cleared out. It's like the garbage disposal that's got to get emptied, right? And we can support this with prebiotics and probiotics and good starches and fibers and diversity of plants, because these plants have different starches and it's really important. So this slide says diversity is strength in the workforce and diversity is strength in the gut. So in our gut, we make these things called short chain fatty acids, and they were really not even on the radar of medicine up to about 10 years ago. And what they have found out is when they compare the gut microbiome to people, say, living in the Amazon or in the bush in Africa, we have really lost a tremendous amount of diversity. They have really different microbiomes, and they're way more resistant to disease and insulin resistance than we are. So these short chain fatty acids, we can harvest fuel from them in our gut, and they repair the gut lining, and they strengthen the immune system in the gut. They upregulate T receptor sites, which are part of the immune system. And they stimulate that same pathway as Ozempic, that GLP-1 pathway. So starches and fibers and roots and diverse plants. Like, think about the vegetables that you eat and then go out and buy 4 or 5 vegetables that you don't eat and get a different starch and a different fiber. Inexpensive. You can do it at home, and every single day you're nurturing your gut microbiome. And people lose weight, by the way, when they start. There's this thing called the mashup. I can send it to you if you want to send me an email, but basically you go out and you buy 10 vegetables, mostly that you don't eat. You put them in a food processor, and then you you chop them up and you divide them into, say, 7 bags. And then each day you put a bag in the food processor, and then you just eat the mashup, the mush, and you're getting all these starches and fibers. And people have actually gone on little competitions with how long they can do this, and watching their bowels change and weight loss. And it's really just a simple thing going back to food, right? Fibers, starches, really cool. So I put a couple hacks in here for 15 minutes wherever you are. So when I used to live back east, I had a big extended family, and sometimes the holidays were so overwhelming. There could just be too much of a certain person or noise or whatever. And I would just take the keys and go out to my car and meditate, right? So we can do breathing, meditating, napping. We can listen to music, these certain frequencies. But just remember, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can take a little bit of time out. So 5 minutes of cyclic breathing, 2 sharp inhales through the nose, followed by a long exhale, shows to change heart rate and relieve stress. And one thing about the heart rate is there's a lot of heart rate variability testing that is measured in different arenas out there. And there's an institute called the Heart Math Institute down around Santa Cruz Mountains. And they put these little monitors on kids' fingers, and they found that when kids went to school and they had an exam that day, their cortisol went up every single hour until the exam. And then after the exam, the cortisol went down. And so I think about that, like when we anticipate something as being stressful, our cortisol starts to raise. So we've got to have these little ways in which we can just stop ourselves, right? And just stop our cortisol from going up. And this one's fantastic. This is this meditation called Kirtan Kira. It's practiced 12 minutes a day. It's been shown to help with regenerate synapses in the brain. It helps with memory and sleep. And you can pull it up as a YouTube video, but it's basically saying these sounds, satanama, repetitively while you touch your fingertips. So there's this cognitive piece of using your brain to touch your fingertips and repeat this. You can do this with a partner. You can do this with kids. You can kind of just break up the monotony and just of some situation. And they're using this in different cognitive clinics that are trying to improve cognition. They're using this as a daily practice. It's become a foundation practice. it's being used with Dr. Dale Bredesen for his program for reversing Alzheimer's. And then exercise, the first thing to go is exercise, I find. It's the travel, it's being too tired, being up too late, whatever. But just think about high intensity interval training, like 15 minutes of some weights and TheraBands, and you're still burning calories for 24 hours. And resistance training has been shown to improve long and short-term memory. And then BDNF, you can go run around your block once or twice, and you can stimulate BDNF in a couple minutes. And that's brain-derived neural growth factor. It'll just start getting your brain active. So thinking about just wherever you are, just trying to get in a little bit of exercise. And this handout, which I talked about. So thinking about if your digestion, if you have gas and bloating and you just don't feel like you're digesting well, especially in the holidays, just throw some plant enzymes in there with your meals. And if you're gluten or dairy sensitive, there's enzymes now. They're DDP4. They're in certain products, which will be on that handout. Which they do is they break down the gliadin protein into like small little snippets. So by the time it hits your gut, it's not so inflammatory. And same way with dairy. So, it's going to be hidden in lots of foods in the holidays, especially going to people's houses and potlucks. So just protect yourself, as best you can. B vitamins. B vitamins are fantastic for stress because when you drink any kind of alcoholic beverage, your liver has to methylate and it has to upregulate methylated B12 and folate and B6 to break that down. So I encourage people to, if they have alcohol in the evening, just to take some B vitamins before they go to sleep with some water. For most people, once in a while, people get revved up by B vitamins and they can't take them at night. And you probably know that if that happens for you. And then, supporting our adrenals, like we talked about, and sleep and anxiety aids. There's all kinds of wonderful things, nerve aids and anxiety aids, anti-anxiety with GABA and theanine, and herbals with passion flower and skullcap and hops, to really just dampen that stress response. There's great little GABA chews you can take during the day. But I think that when we get into the idea of having these little tools in our toolkit, that we just prevent things from getting bigger and larger and bigger problems down the road, right? And we feel better. We just feel better. All of you are invited to this webinar that I'm going to be doing. It's a free webinar on hormonal balance and cognitive changes with the brain. It'll be on these 2 dates. And I don't have an online scheduling at this junction, so you could just email me and be happy to send you the flyer on this when it's ready. And then here is my contact information. And here is my thank you to everyone. I'm really grateful for coming here today. I love sharing this. I love women's health. I love hormones, gut, brain. We can't just, I think the day is gone where we just eat good food, because the soil is denatured, right? We're missing vitamins and minerals. The air quality is not good. We're getting stressed. We lose magnesium from Wi-Fi. So sitting in front of a computer screen all day, near a modem. And so we really have to think about protecting ourselves and living the healthiest life we can. So I will open this up to questions and answers because that will give us 10 minutes. Would you like me to do that, Olivia and Morgan? Yeah.
That sounds great. And if you want to stop sharing your screen, or we can keep it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we have about 7-8 minutes for questions, just to be respectful of everybody's time. If anyone has questions, just jump on in.
I don't know if I have any questions, but you covered all the things that I've been working on with my gal. So I definitely have seen the value of I have progesterone drops and liver love juice, and oh my God. So you guys definitely, you got to get these things checked every couple of years, if not, and your medical doctor doesn't do it. So go see Sherie.
I had a question. On one of your slides, you mentioned coconut oil, like MCT oil. I forget exactly what it was for. That was a lot.
Yeah, coconut is a saturated fat, and it's very good for stabilizing blood sugar, and it's really good for the brain. It creates thermogenesis. It really helps burn fat. It's ironic, right? Because it's considered a fat, but it can upregulate your core temperature.
I am like a huge lover of coconut oil. It's like, you know, if you've ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding where the dad puts a Windex on everything, that is how I am with coconut oil. Like it solves every solution. I'm just curious. I use it as like a lotion essentially every day. Is there a benefit of using it topically, or is it more ingesting it that helps with everything you just talked about?
Yeah, it would have to ingest it. I mean, it's great for the skin, but it would not be doing anything systemically.
Okay.
For you. Yeah.
Somebody also told me, I mean, this is just a side note, that they use coconut oil, like, you know, oil pulling.
Yeah.
And it makes your teeth really white.
Yeah. It helps with bacteria. Oil pulling is designed to pull bacteria and from the gums. It's a really healthy practice.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. So I have a question. Did these slides become available, or is this is recorded that other people can listen to who weren't able to attend?
It is recorded, and we will send you a link to the replay if you want to share it. We're still working on our end on like creating some sort of bank where all of these live. But we'll send you the replay for sure. And before you go, if you can just drop your preferred method of contact in the chat so everybody has a chance to connect with you, because I know I will personally be connecting with you. I am feeling very inspired, and we still have a couple more minutes if anybody else has questions.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. That was so insightful. And I listened to the Rachel Hollis podcast. Anybody follows Rachel Hollis? She's pretty awesome. And she has talked through with her functional medicine doctor, like through all the hormone things on a few different types of conversations on her podcast. And I always thought that was so cool. And I was like, where do I find one of these people in Sacramento? And then here you are. So I'm super excited. I sent you an email already, but this was just really helpful. I have stage 5 endometriosis, which is like the worst stage for endometriosis. And so I feel like I think the thing you said that hit me personally the most is we're always in that hormonal fluctuation as women. And I feel like I've been on that train since I was about 15 years old. And so, and it's wild because the medical doctors, like, as a 15-year-old girl, sorry, this is TMA for everybody, but like my periods were so heavy. At one point I had bled through like 2 or more tampons in like a 4-hour time span. And my mom was like, this isn't normal. I'm taking you to the ER, because it was like a Saturday. She didn't know where else to take me. And so that sort of started like the train of events where I eventually got diagnosed with endometriosis pretty early on, because it was so severe. But like, I remember the ER doctors basically, like, their solution was like, let's put her on birth control, because that'll just, like, you know, we wouldn't just want to like get her cycle regular. Like, after they did like all of the tests and they were like, that's going to be our best recommendation. Obviously she needs to go see like OBG and she needs to do all these other things, but like all that, we started me on birth control at 15 to like solve that problem, which created so many other problems, of course. So it's just fascinating to me, like how 50% of the population is women, and yet we don't have better answers for these things that affect women so much.
You know, Halle Berry, the actress, she went to some high-end functional medicine place in Beverly Hills, and she was misdiagnosed. She was in perimenopause, and she was misdiagnosed as having herpes. And when she figured that out, that she was misdiagnosed, she kind of went through the roof, and she spearheaded a survey of OBGYNs around the country, asking them how comfortable they feel prescribing hormones. And only 30% said that they get any hormonal training, and only 30% said they felt comfortable. And with primary doctors, 80% said they did not feel comfortable prescribing hormones because they really didn't know what to do with them. And so that is what happens. We get thrown on the pill, but we come in with things, we come in with tendencies genetically, and there's environmental toxicities that we come in with. We're born with 117 chemicals in cord blood today, in the umbilical cord, 117. And so, it depends on where your mother lived and what she was exposed to, because your egg was in her ovary, right? And so sometimes we come in with things, and we come in with genetic predispositions. There was a wonderful woman named Katrina Dalton. She was a woman who went to med school late in life, in her 30s, in the 1950s, and she coined PMS. We could be thankful for that word to her, because she had horrible PMS until she got pregnant in med school, and it all went away. And she was the first person who started researching progesterone. And the fun fact here is she actually went into prisons and went to court and basically said that some of these women were hysterical because of severe hormonal deficiencies. And she got women out of sentencings for certain crimes they committed at certain times in their month from rage. So, this is ongoing, and there's receptor sites that don't pick things up, and we're not equally all born with the same kind of receptor sites. So I understand. It's pretty frustrating. I have a friend who was diagnosed with Hashimoto's at 8. Doctors don't look for Hashimoto's in an 8-year-old girl. She's really lucky that someone looked for her. Because, yeah, I hear you.
I didn't know that about the actress, but I did. My college roommate and best friend was misdiagnosed with herpes, and it was especially traumatizing for her because she thought she was a virgin at that point. And so then she went down the rabbit hole of oh my word. And she actually got a lawyer and sued the doctor because it really impacted her so drastically. It really altered her life. And it was something I had no idea about the actress, but that's wild that I didn't realize that had happened to anyone else. That's so crazy.
Halle Berry has started a move in the Senate to create, it's called the Menopausal Research Act or something like that. They're earmarking $234 million into women's health now, hormonal health. And this is what it's going to take. It's going to take people, who have a big megaphone and can rally up some governmental changes. Spain just allowed insurances to cover tampons and other, other necessities for women's hormonal issues. I think testing and tampons and, the cervical cup. Yeah. So birth control, they're going to cover birth control on their insurance. They called it because it was an unfair distribution for women of a lower socioeconomics that they couldn't afford feminine products. Yay, Spain. Yeah.
Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time and of your time. And I know this is something we could probably all share stories on and talk about for a long time. I get all worked up just thinking about, just the lack of research for women's health and things like that. But I will say that this makes me feel so much more in control, knowing that I'm now connected to you, knowing that there are resources locally. So thank you so much for all the wisdom you shared today and continue to share, and all the work you continue to do and the research you continue to do. It soothes my heart that there are people out there that care as much as you do. So thank you so much, Dr. Sherie.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. Really appreciated it.
Yes, thank you for sharing. And I'm just going to, before everybody runs, drop the link for our Give Back event tomorrow night. If you're able to make it out to Rancho Cordova for some networking, connection, holiday shopping, and supporting a local nonprofit. That will be our only other NAWBO hosted event in December, because we know that the holidays get busy, as we just talked about. So I hope that you all enjoyed this as much as I did and got just as much out of it. And I hope you all stay well and healthy and take care of yourselves first and foremost through the holiday season, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of everybody else. So thank you all for being here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.